Tears and Therapists by Cruser. My mom tells me that I almost never cried as a baby. When I ask for clarification on this fact, she tells me there isn't much to give, except that I had a clogged tear duct in my left eye, causing it to occasionally leak. She would sit me in a doorway jumper while she vacuumed or swept, and I would bounce and laugh, one eye leaking, but not crying. As a toddler, I cried only when I was hurt, if I fell off the trampoline, or skinned my knee, or played too hard with my brothers. When I cracked my head open on the glass coffee table cover, I got 4 staples in my head. 30 minutes later, I jumped up and down on the hospital bed before a nurse asked my parents to take me home. Something shifted when I got a little older. Like most 13-year-olds, I was miserable. I started and ended most days with tears. I missed school on days when my eyes were too puffy to see out of. I cried so my dad would drive me to school instead of having to take the bus. I cried over math homework. I cried to get out of cutting the grass. I cried for myself mostly. The misery lasted into high school. My mom didn't know why I was so sad all the time. She asked what was hurting me so badly. She wanted to help. I couldn't explain it to her. I still can't really. Everything I lived through seems so small now. My parents' divorce, moving to a new house, school getting harder. All those things I watched my peers and even siblings navigate with grace while I was stuck with this unshakable, profound sadness. While my friends adapted and overcame all these teenage obstacles, I remained unchanged and inconsolable. During that time, I followed a strict schedule. When I got home from school, I went straight to bed. When my dad would wake me for dinner, I sat in a near-dissociative state until I was dismissed and could go back to my room. Even then, when I spent more than half of my days asleep, I cried often, into my sweatshirt sleeve in study hall or against the window of a moving school bus. My dad, after waiting it out long enough, took me to a psychiatrist who came to the same conclusion he had. I was depressed. The same depression my dad has, the same depression his mom has. The depression that lost him his job and made her distant. I was the lucky recipient of the hand-me-down major depressive disorder. I was given a prescription for SSRIs and a recommendation to see a counselor weekly. Your depression is not like the feeling, one therapist said. It's kind of like that, but it doesn't always have a reason, and it's all the time, and it doesn't always go away. This did not make me feel better. Her office was filled with toys that smelled like Clorox wipes. She gave me a different one to hold each time I sat on the couch. I got the feeling she was not used to counseling teenagers. My suspicion was confirmed when she asked me to fill out a worksheet about sadness with a rain cloud coloring sheet on the back. During one session, she asked why I thought I was so sad. I looked up from my assigned toy to see if her question was rhetorical or just ridiculous. When I did, she laughed at herself before choking on whatever was in her coffee cup for the next 30 of our 45-minute session. Every time she thought she cleared it, she would try to apologize and choke again. When my dad came to pick me up, she just waved and coughed into her sleeve before closing her office door. I convinced my parents to cancel the upcoming appointments. Another therapist berated me for counting ceiling tiles while he talked. One scrolled through Facebook while I explained my relationship with food. Somewhere in the mix of ill-fitting therapists and ineffective antidepressants, I had stopped crying. It was a side effect that I had been warned of on the side of nearly every orange bottle I had gone through in the last 16 months, and not one that I was particularly scared of. I did not miss crying. I started to make new friends and reconnect with old ones. Each month I went without crying became something funny to tally with them. The things that used to make me cry hardly held my attention at all. Looking back, I don't know if I was happy. I only knew that I wasn't crying. But crying is human, and not crying takes something from you. Life felt fake, like nothing mattered. Tears I didn't cry piled up in my chest and weighed me down more than before. I begged to cry. I watched videos of military homecomings and compilations of the saddest Super Bowl commercials, but felt nothing. I asked to be taken off my meds. It's common for people with depression to stop taking their medication when they start to feel better. They don't think they need it anymore. My parents knew this, so they agreed that I should keep taking the antidepressants. I think they were afraid of me turning back into the wet puddle of tears I was before. We've done all this work to find the right one, my doctor said when I asked his opinion. I stopped taking the pill the next day. The first tears I cried in 2 years were at my high school graduation. Eyes muddy with mascara I borrowed from my sister, and runny nose covered with a mask. I laughed in between sobs and hugged people that I would never see again, and celebrated being alive. despite and because of all the pain that comes with it. Now, I cry for everything. I cry watching Pitt's pep band play a Chicago song, the trombone player slides all moving in unison. I cry nearly every time my stepmom hugs me, though she's done it many times before. I cry when the Dolphins lose their wild card match. I cry looking at my youngest sister, her blonde hair almost glowing in the sun. I cry around the 55-minute mark of almost every Pixar movie. I cry because somehow I, of all people, get to live my life. Last night I listened to a song Taylor Swift wrote for her mom. She sings, "I love you for giving me your eyes." I cried because I have my father's eyes. I cried because I'm growing up. I cried because that's both a good thing and a scary thing simultaneously. The American Psychological Association estimates that a woman will cry 3,619 times before she dies. By the time I'm 80, I'm sure I will have doubled that number. And if you were lucky, you will too. On the first day of digital storytelling, we were shown Caitlin Cruser's Where I'm From video. I absolutely loved it and felt so inspired. So, when I saw Love, an Observation by Caitlin Cruser, I immediately grabbed it. As I read through it, I loved every piece, but Tears and Therapists hit home. I knew it was the piece I was going to do when I started crying while reading it. The Taylor Swift mention was just an added bonus. My struggle with anxiety and depression began around 16, and the pandemic made it even worse. I cried over everything and spent as much time as I could asleep, because if I was sleeping, I couldn't feel. I started seeing a therapist who didn't really help, but I was lucky to find a great one. I still see her and have learned and grown so much with her support. I was on and off different medications and ended up taking myself off of them because I wanted to feel again. Like Caitlin, I now cry for everything. I love crying. I have learned how to handle my big emotions and control them when they start to get out of control. Life is a beautiful gift. So cry over the hugs, the changes, the songs, the wins and the losses. Cry the happy tears and cry the sad tears. Feel all of the feelings, because what is life without the ups and downs?